Welcome everybody to the 5,544th meeting of the Rotary Club of Chicago. Rotary One is now in session. And so we will get started right away with our thought of the day. And to do the thought of the day today, I would like to welcome Mr. Jason Clark to give the thought. Jason, the floor is yours.
Eric, I'm not sure Jason is joining us. I don't see him in the list.
Okay, well that's fine. Then we will move on from the thought. I believe we had some very thought-like thoughts from Pancho earlier, for those who just joined, giving us some nice perspective on how things could always be worse with the pandemic, and we should certainly be grateful for our situation here today with the pandemic being hopefully shorter than pandemics in many years past, as well as the fact that we have technology to help us out these days in ways that did not exist perhaps 100 or hundreds of years ago. So let's move on then. And our first announcement today is just an update on the slate of candidates from the nominating committee. And so I'd like to hand the floor over to Marshall Schmidt. Marshall, the floor is yours.
Hi, Eric. So we circulated to the membership an updated list. There were certain requirements of the bylaws that required us to make some adjustments. So you see before you the updated slate for president nominee, Alita Williams, treasurer Matthias, secretary Evan Freund has agreed to serve as secretary for us. And then because Alita was elevated to president nominee and will serve on the board in that capacity, we needed to fill another board slot. And so we're nominating Michelle Stewart. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Further nominations, if there are any, need to be submitted 21 days before the annual meeting, which is December 15th. Thank you very much, everyone who participated in the process. It was my last official act as the immediate past president. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Marshall, and thanks for all the effort that you and the committee put into this. It's a fantastic slate. I am going to come back now to thought of the day because I see that Jason just joined. So Jason Clark, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Eric, and sorry for the delay there. Let me fix my tie. I'm on camera, huh? Everyone can hear me. So my thought of the day will be short and sweet. It's really, just going to talk to you, right? Just taking care of yourselves. Right now, it's the end of the year. We all have health insurance. You might have some FSA dollars or HSA dollars that you're looking for avenues to spend, and sometimes that's not as easy as you possibly can spend it. But look at the back of your insurance card and see if there is an option for speaking with a therapist and checking in with your mental health. It's been a difficult, interesting, unique year, and we all have so much going on within our heads right now about our own health, about the future of the world. Whatever it is you feel you need to get off your chest, don't just keep it all in there, and check in with a professional. So that's my thought of the day. Take care of yourself and finish the year strong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. That's, I think, very poignant advice and something extremely critical. And I would also add that for any of our members out there, if you're if you're a little bit down, if this is getting to you, always feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to any members of the board of Rotary One just to have a chat. Whatever we can do, but it's important to make sure you are taking care of your own mental health. And with that, I'd like to move on to our program. And so I am going to pass the floor over to our program's co-chair, Mr. David Hirsch. David, the floor is yours.
Eric, thank you. It's my privilege to introduce today's speaker, Azim Khamisa. I met Azim in January in Ontario, California at the Rotary World Peace Conference. I was literally blown away by his story. As most of you know, I'm an outspoken advocate for children and fathers. I was immediately drawn to Azim's story when I learned about how his only son, Tariq, was killed, how he processed the grief and that reality, forgave Tony, the young boy who committed the senseless crime, then went on to create the Tariq Khamisa Foundation and the journey he and plus Felix, Tony's grandfather, have been on to halt the continuing and senseless cycle of youth violence. Azim is an author, thought leader, peace activist, and international speaker. He was born in Kenya, Africa, of Eastern roots. Azim was educated in the United Kingdom in mathematics, economics, and international finance. He's a successful international investment banker with over 45 years of experience and has conducted business in Africa, the Middle East, Canada, US, Europe, and Asia. He's also founder of the Tariq Khamisa Foundation, founded in 1995, co-founder of the Constant and Never-Ending Improvement Program. He's authored 5 books, received awards too numerous to share, and his story is featured in a documentary film, The Power of Forgiveness, Unlikely Friends, Azim Khamisa, The Tool of Forgiveness and the Truth. Azim resides in La Jolla, California. In addition to his son, Tariq, he has a daughter, Tazreen, and is a proud grandfather of 3. We have a brief video to share before Azim addresses the group.
Time now for our Friday Making a Difference report and the story of a man whose capacity for forgiveness is astonishing. He suffered the worst loss a parent can ever face, and yet he decided to turn his grief into something positive for himself and a troubled young man. Here's NBC's John Larson.
A documentary began the story like this.
14-year-old Tony Hicks shot and killed 20-year-old Tariq Khamisa.
A 14-year-old murders a promising young college student for the cost of a pizza and becomes the youngest child in California history charged as an adult with murder and gets life in prison.
It was like a nuclear bomb going off in my heart.
Azim Khamisa, the father of the victim, buried his only son Tariq according to their Muslim custom. He climbed down into the muddy grave. It had been raining, and they lowered his son's body wrapped in a white cloth down into his open arms.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave him there alone. I stayed there a long time. When something bad happens, you can stop that bad from happening to other people.
But when he finally came up, he did something remarkable.
It is wrong to lie, to cheat.
First, he forgave the family of the killer.
It was a defining moment in my life. Only through that forgiveness,
which in turn helped Azim start the Tariq Khamisa Foundation, speaking together to more than 1 million children about the real pain of violence.
And sometimes it scars the soul forever.
Then, Azim visited Tony Hicks, the killer, who had never had a father, and forgave him too.
His forgiveness wasn't something I expected.
Now Azim is lobbying to have Tony released from prison early, like he was his own son. And when he gets out of prison, what do you hope for him?
We'll have a job for him at the foundation.
So you're going to hire him?
Absolutely.
This is the killer of your son?
Yes.
Tony says now he knows what a real father is.
I had a man forgive me for taking the life of his son.
And he will work for that father, and for many who maybe never had fathers, someday, whether he gets out early or not. John Larson, NBC News, San Diego, California.
Well, Azim, thank you for being with us today. The Zoom stage is yours.
Thank you, and I guess it's good afternoon in Chicago. Greetings and namaste. Thank you, David, for the introduction, and good to see you again. I remember meeting you in January at the Peace Conference, and I thought I might start with a prayer from my tradition. It's about peace. I know Rotary is very big on peace, and I did this at the keynote I gave at the conference in Ontario, California in January. So I'll recite it in Arabic first, and then I will translate it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam wa alayka jo salam. Hina rabbana bi salam wa tkilna dare salam. In the name of Allah, the most merciful and the most beneficent. O Allah, O our Lord, Thou art the peace, from Thee is the peace, and to Thee returneth the peace. O Allah, O our Lord, give us a life of peace and usher us into the abode of peace. I think what is different about my story, which started, as David pointed out, with a pretty devastating hit. Tariq was my only son. I do have a beautiful daughter who now runs the Tariq Khamisa Foundation. He was a student at San Diego State University and worked as a pizza delivery man on Fridays and Saturdays to make some extra money for college. And lured to a bogus address by a youth gang, and in a gang initiation, a 14-year-old shot and killed him at the young age of 20. So needless to say, there's probably the worst nightmare a parent can go through to lose a child. And I went through all the emotions you would anticipate a parent to go through. Hopelessness, despair, and I was suicidal at one point. I really did not know how to move forward without Tariq. He was an old soul in a young body, a great writer, a great photographer, a good student, wanted to someday work for National Geographic, loved cultures and travel. And his hero was Gandhi, a man of peace, and a joy to be around, blessed with a great sense of humor. And, you think that something as devastating as that can sometimes ruin the rest of your lives. I've met many parents in the last 25 years I've been doing this work that have lost children. And sometimes it is very hard to bounce back. But my journey is a little different because my first book was From Murder to Forgiveness. And I followed that from forgiveness to fulfillment because the work that I've done in the aftermath of my son's tragedy, especially with kids, having now given over 1,000 presentations worldwide to youth, it's been very rewarding and very fulfilling. I have over 150,000 letters from kids teaching the principles of nonviolence, the importance of empathy, compassion, peacemaking, and peace building. And then I followed that second book with my trilogy, From Fulfillment to Peace. So here you have a journey that starts very dark with murder, but has ended a couple decades later to peace. And the foreword to my last book in my trilogy was written by Tony, who took Tariq's life. And he did a great job in writing the foreword. And the video obviously was done before he was released. And just to update everybody on this story, his parole hearing was in November of 2018. And of course, I was there along with my daughter advocating for his parole. I've been working with his grandfather for a good 20 plus years. And my sense earlier was that there were victims at both ends of the gun, that I did not see Tony as the enemy. He was 14 when he killed my son. He was 11 when he joined a gang. And sometimes in deep trauma and deep tragedy, there is a spark of clarity. We humans have many defining moments in our lives, and obviously that was a deeply defining moment in my life. And sometimes this defining moment are joyous, and sometimes they are downright devastating, as was the situation in my case. But if you are able to make the right choice at those defining moments, you literally manifest a miracle in you and others. And in that devastating moment, there was a spark of clarity. I practice as a Sufi Muslim. I used to meditate an hour a day. When Tariq was alive, today my practice is 2 hours a day. And the spark of clarity that came as a result of a download from a higher power, I believe, is I saw that there were victims at both ends of the gun. I mean, every saint has suffered the dark night of the soul. And in that dark night of the soul for me, the download I received is that there are victims at both ends of the gun. Think about it. Who is the enemy here? Is it the 14-year-old who killed my son and who joined a gang at the age of 11? Or is it the societal peer pressure that forced many young men and young women to fall through the crack and then choose lives of crime and gangs and drugs and alcohol and weapons? At 14? Handling weapons when they should be playing with toys? So who's the real culprit here? So I didn't see that Tony was a real culprit. I saw rather the societal peer pressure. And of course, Chicago has a big issue here. I've come and spoken in Chicago before, and I don't have to educate you on the plight of youth violence. It is, it's a plague all over our country, whether it's urban or suburban. So I saw that as a culprit. And at the parole hearing, I told the commissioner that I would like to see Tony being paroled, that he has a lot of work to do. I met him when he was 19 years old, which was 5 years after the tragedy. I started the foundation, reached out to his grandfather 9 months after Tariq died, but it took me a good 5 years before I was able to go see Tony, because I'm sure you would acknowledge that was a hard thing to do. But I also recognized that for me to complete my journey of forgiveness, at some point I had to come eyeball to eyeball with Tony. And that was a very cathartic, transformative meeting, both for me and also for him. And I remember, even though that was he's 40 years old, so it was over 21 years ago, there were some holes in the story that he was the last person to see my son and only the person that could actually complete that story. And we spent a couple hours together, and I asked him some tough questions, which he was able to answer. But at one point in that couple hours, he and I locked eyeballs. I'm looking in his eyes, trying to find a murderer. And I didn't. I was able to climb through his eyes and touch his humanity that I saw the spark in him was no different than the spark in me or any one of you. And I wasn't expecting that. He was well-behaved, he was well-spoken, he was articulate, and he was remorseful. And I could tell that my hand of forgiveness had shifted him. And he didn't portray any of the typical attitudes of a 19-year-old in our society. And of course, I wasn't expecting that. And at that point, I told him, Tony, you know that I have forgiven you because I've been working with your grandfather for a good 5 years now. But I also want you to know that when you come out of the prison, you can join your grandfather and me at the Tariq Khamisa Foundation, and we'll have a job waiting for you. And as I left the prison that day, I remember that the stride that I had was a lot more bouncier than the stride that I had walked in with. That at that point, I knew that my journey of forgiveness was complete. And the preeminent thought was, why did I wait 5 years? Because forgiveness can be very freeing. The next day, the grandfather calls me and says, Azim, that meeting you had with Tony totally changed him. He said, as you were leaving, he said to me, Daddy, he lived with his grandfather, calls him Daddy. There's a special man. I killed his one and only son. Not only has he forgiven me, he has offered me a job. I'm not worthy of his forgiveness. I'm not worthy of his job offer, but I'm going to try. He later then aced his GED when he was in Pelican Bay, solitary confinement, high maximum prison at 98.5 percentile, self-taught himself. He's read all the books, including mine, plus the Torah, the Quran, the Bible. At the parole hearing, I told the commissioner to please let him win parole so he can join the foundation, because I think you can see the power of him on stage, which he already is now doing because he did win parole and was finally released in April. And he is now apprenticed with a organization, a plumbing heating organization that supports the foundation, and they hired him. And he's volunteering for the foundation like I have done for the last 25 years, as has his grandfather done for the last 25 years. And changing lives. When he is on stage and says, although with COVID, it's mostly we're doing some presentations on Zoom, but prior to COVID, we are at doing assemblies in school. We specialize between 5th and 10th grade. Tony joined a gang in 6th grade and killed my son in 8th grade. And these are adolescents, middle years, very difficult. And we've stayed in that space and now understand that space very clearly. We've created a safe school model, which has 4 different programs. And the first one is a live assembly, which was primarily with me and the grandfather, and now Tony is part of it. We have a curriculum, 3 levels of it. The first one is for 5th and 6th grade, second is 7th and 8th, the third is for 9th and 10th grade. And then it's a very robust 10-week lesson. Then we create a peace club on campus. And then for the challenging kids, which is quite high, in San Diego County, most middle schools have about 1,000 kids. Between 8 and 12% of them are at risk. For those 8 to 12%, we have individual mentoring. And in a couple of years, we are able to cut truancy, and we cut suspensions and expulsions by 70%, teach all of these important values, and get rid of gangs. A lot of our work is inner city schools. And we've had the programs time tested, all of the universities, and we have several good ones in San Diego that have evaluated our programs. And then recently we developed a piece for parents with partnership with Berkeley University. And we also have a piece for educators, which we now have online. And we are now taking our entire Safe School model and bringing it online. Our timelines on that is about a year. We fortunately have the funding to do that. So by this time next year, our entire Safe School model, plus the parenting piece, plus the educator piece, will be available online. And of course, once it is, we can go anywhere. Currently, we have a very strong site in San Diego, but we also have a second site in Pennsylvania, Newtown, Pennsylvania. We started with one school district. We are now in 5. And all of our school partners in San Diego County have already come back to us and said that they need us because we provide a lot of social, emotional support for the kids. And of course, with COVID, they are going to need it. So anyway, the commissioner at his hearing said to me, he says, I've been doing this work for 35 years. I've never had a victim's father and a victim's sister advocate for the release of the offender. And he was very moved. So he finally said, yes, I recognize that he has a lot of work to do, that he can save a lot of kids that may be thinking about following in his former footsteps. And he was released finally in April of 2019. Then had to be in a halfway house till about October of 2019. And now he's volunteering for TKF. So I think it's a journey that started very dark with murder. And of course, at that time, I did not know that it would end in peace. And the portal of that whole journey was forgiveness. And now, having done this work for 25 years, I enjoy a sense of peace I never had before. And not that I wouldn't want my son back. Of course, any father would want his son back in a New York minute. Obviously, that is not possible. But what I have discovered through this journey that we all have a spiritual purpose. And while I had a good life in international investment banking and the world of financial services when Tariq was alive, that was not my spiritual purpose. The work that I'm doing, the Tariq Khamisa Foundation, and talks that I'm doing, like I'm doing with you, promoting forgiveness, peacemaking, and peace building, I believe was my spiritual purpose. And I believe that when you are on your spiritual purpose, you have a perpetual tailwind and the road rises to meet you, that the universe is your partner. Because I wasn't trained in social services, my training was more in the business world. But it's been very fulfilling because investment banking was about money. This is about saving lives of children. And I feel very fortunate that I was chosen to do this work and continue to do that. Because obviously, it's far more important to save lives of children because we lose so many. Every couple hours, we lose a child. And I know Chicago has had a lot of violence on your streets. So that's been my journey. And I think I will stop here and open it up for questions.
Well, Azim, thank you for a very moving and powerful presentation. Even though I've seen the presentation live, I've watched your TEDx talk more than once, and I am still touched. My heart is touched by your story and the transformative nature of your message about forgiving and the importance of forgiving, because you're the one that carries around the heavy backpack, right? If you hold those thoughts and you can't let go. So thank you again for sharing. I know that you and plus Felix, Tony's grandfather, are like brothers, right? You mentioned that. You travel around. And I love the little sort of joke that you say that, hey, wait a second, Plus, I'm the real African American. You were actually born in Africa.
I was born in Kenya. That's right. We've become very close.
Yeah, it is a remarkable story. And I think the thing that I remember most, and you repeated it today, about the victim being not on one end of the gun, but both ends of the gun, and having that very broad perspective, not the self perspective, looking at it from your own angle, but looking at it more broadly from the community's perspective, and that we could do better. We need to do better as a society. And as you pointed out, we in Chicago have some really serious problems. And it's not a gun issue. Obviously, guns are involved, but it's a people issue. Yeah. And no doubt we can learn a thing or two from the work that you've been doing. The question I had sort of tries to get to the root of the problem. I think part of the root of the problem goes into the schools, like you've been suggesting. You didn't use this phrase, but I'm wondering if you can speak to this, because I think it starts with something as simple as bullying, right? When people are really young, they're growing up in many cases in broken families, and no one's sort of helping correct them at an early age. And that sort of transfers into some of these more consequential issues later in life. And I'm wondering if there's a connection, or what your opinion is about the concept of bullying and how it ties into the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I think that truancy, bullying are the precursors eventually ending up in violent acts. But the thing that what we've learned is bullying is more of a symptom. No child was born as a bully. And when I started the foundation, David, I started with a very simple premise that violence is a learned behavior. No child is born violent. Tony wasn't born violent. So if you accept that as an axiom that violence is a learned behavior, it follows nonviolence can also be a learned behavior. But where do our kids learn nonviolence? It shocked me that by the time kids go to grade 1, they're 6 years old, they've seen over 100,000 images of violence, not only on TV and movies, but social, all these electronic games. Mm-hmm. We are by far the most violent nation in the world. I mean, The Economist, it took 25 first world countries and added all the kids that die and took the total of those 25 countries. This is first world: Germany, England, France, Canada, Australia, Japan, and took the total and multiplied that by 11. That's how many we lose in the United States of America. Yeah. So if you learn the principles of nonviolence, of empathy, of compassion, you are not a bully. And these messages are not only teachable, our kids are hungry for them. So I've had a lot of success through the work we are doing with the foundation in helping deal with bullies, because pretty typically they have issues that create that. It's essentially unresolved grief, sometimes pain, and sometimes anger. And once you release it, I can tell you stories after stories after stories of kids that we've been able to transform. So, David, I know there are some questions coming in. I'm not very familiar with chat, but maybe you can pose those questions so I can hear them, and then I can respond to them.
Well, I'm going to suggest that that's one level above my pay grade. I'm going to turn the stage back to Eric, who will facilitate the questions. Azim, thank you again.
Okay, you're welcome, David.
Yeah, so absolutely, Azim, first of all, very, very moving and inspirational. And that's what I'm seeing come through in the chat box right now. And you're right, we do have a couple of questions. And so the first one here is, how has working with the foundation affected the way that you, your daughter, and your family raise your grandchildren?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think in a profound way. It took my daughter a little longer to forgive Tony. But for the last 6 years or so, they have created a very sibling relationship. Tony often talks to her pretty much every day. We've gone to dinner with Tony and bring the grandsons in. My daughter and my grandchildren just got a dog about 3 years ago, and they've named him TK, which was my son's name. His name was Tariq Khamisa, but he went by TK. They are all, in a way, learning the importance of what we teach about empathy, about compassion, about forgiveness, about our commitment to peace building. I give some money every month to my grandchildren. I did that with my children with 3 rules. My first rule is give 10% away to any charity you want to, or give it away to a homeless person, whatever you want to do. Save 20% and then spend the other 70% how you want, but you have to send me a budget because I wanted them to know where their money is going. And I remember the first month I did that, my second grandson said, I give all the money to the foundation. So that was very touching,
Thank you. That's fantastic. Another question that has come in is share with us the connection between your Muslim faith and your ability to forgive.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what happened, Eric, is when I got the call from homicide to tell me that Tariq had been shot and killed, I did not believe them. I thought it was a mistaken identity. My son, like me, had dark skin, and we have a lot of Hispanic people that live in the San Diego area. And I thought, well, it didn't make any sense because Tariq was a good kid, this didn't make any sense. So I very quickly hung up and called his home. And he had just gotten engaged to Jennifer, which was his fiancée, that met at San Diego State University. They were both students there and been dating for a couple of years and finally got engaged, and they wanted to, had plans to get married. So obviously I was fully expecting Tariq to pick up the phone. He didn't, she did. And of course she couldn't say anything. She was just sobbing. And that's when it hit. I was in my kitchen. I remember I lost strength in both of my legs as I collapsed to the floor, hit my head against the refrigerator and curled up in a ball. And I don't have the words to describe how painful that experience was. I never felt pain like that in my life. It's like literally, I say, a nuclear bomb went off in my heart. And I left my body. And I think when victims go through deep trauma like this, they do leave their body. And I believe in God. I believe I went into the loving embrace of God. I don't remember how long I was gone for, but when the explosion subsided, God sent me back in my body with that wisdom that there are victims at both ends of the gun. It didn't come from my intellect or my loving heart. I don't think us mortals are capable of that. But I didn't pay any attention to it. My best friend was with me. I lived by myself an hour and a half later. And his wife went to get Jennifer. And the first words that came out of his mouth is, whoever these kids are, I hope they fry in hell. And I looked at him and I said, I don't feel that way. I see that there are victims at both ends of the gun. This was an hour and a half after I found out. I remember he broke down and cried. He said, Azim, I don't know where you get this strength, because if somebody took Adam's life, which was his son, not only would I want the killer, I'd want the whole clan. I never went there. So I think my faith had a lot to do with it, because I started to meditate when I was 20, and I lost Tariq in my early 40s. So I had a pretty solid spiritual foundation. And I believe that really had a lot to do with my response and the work that I have done in the aftermath of this tragedy. Because sometimes in your deep trauma and deep crisis, your intellect is not going to be able to solve your problems, and your hearts are not going to be able to heal. But I think your spirits, and one of my books is called that, The Secrets of the Bulletproof Spirit, How to Bounce Back from Life's Hardest Hits, that there are no problems, and let me underscore that, there are no problems that you're going to face in your life that your spirit cannot solve or heal. I think I'm a good example of that, but it helps to have that spiritual foundation. As I said, I went to some pretty good schools in England, but those degrees in math and finance were pretty useless in my deepest crisis. That what really saved me was that spiritual foundation. And all faith teach that. I grew up in the Sufi tradition, which is the metaphysical arm of Islam. But I think forgiveness is a big part of the Christian faith, right? I mean, one of the strongest forgiveness stories, Lord Jesus Christ, forgive them, Father, they do not know what they are doing. I mean, it's amazing when he said that when they're nailing him to the cross. But I think all religion, teach these values.
Thank you, Azim. One final question, and I want to move to action because Rotarians are, of course, people of action. Can you speak a little bit more about the school project you mentioned, and then maybe more specifically, how can Rotary clubs help with violence prevention and peace?
Yeah, I think that we would love a partnership with Rotary. I've spoken a lot of Rotary clubs. My daughter is a Rotarian in one of the larger clubs in San Diego. We're not 100% online yet, Eric, but we will be in a year. And then we can bring our program anywhere. And I know Rotary is worldwide. You're doing amazing work. So let me also acknowledge you. I'm in awe and respect in what Rotary is doing. And would love to take the Safe School model. It's very comprehensive. And now we also have a parenting and an educator piece. And bring it to school districts wherever Rotary is. And I'm not so sure how we move forward with it. I know that David introduced me to a school district in Chicago, and then COVID hit. So it kind of stymied us a little bit. But with the online version, we are very, very happy to bring it to wherever Rotary is, and maybe you can give me some guidance as to how we partner with Rotary.
We'd be happy to do that. And David, maybe you can kind of serve as that liaison and point of contact to make sure that we continue to share that information back and forth, particularly as you further develop the program as well. We can identify opportunities and work with our community service committee to see if there could be opportunities here in Chicago. Before we wrap up the program, Azim, I do want to turn the floor just for 1 minute over to one of our members who also had something very important to share with us on this topic, just for a minute here. Neetha, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Khamisa, for sharing this. I was sitting here listening earlier with my mom. We lost my brother at age, he was 28. So it's been a journey of trying to get to the point of forgiveness. And I shared with Eric in the chat that this was in 2005. Even years later, it is not as easy for me. My mom has already gone through the forgiveness, and you sharing that to see the victim on both sides is not an easy thing to do. So it's inspirational to hear you say that, and it's very moving. And maybe the siblings take longer to get there. So you shared also that you got there first, and then your daughter later. And I think my sister and I, struggle with that at sometimes. But I'm inspired. So thank you for sharing. Yeah.
You're welcome, and I'm very sorry for the loss of your brother. And I know it takes time, and I still miss him, and I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
And you always will. But one thing that's helped me, and it's also helping my daughter now, is the work we're doing in his name, So I would inspire you to get involved with some organization. I know there are plenty in Chicago.
Yeah.
And share your story and your mom's story, and helping others not end up. It's like what I say, I can't bring Tariq back.
Yeah.
Stopping children from dying and stopping children from not ending up in prison is meaningful. Mm-hmm. And we do it in Tariq's name. So as I was taught by my spiritual advisor, that good, compassionate deeds done in the name of the departed are spiritual currency, mm-hmm. and provide high octane fuel for my son's journey in the next world. Because,
yeah, he lived in Chicago. He lived in San Diego too. So, and we are doing something in his name. So I think maybe that's a message he's giving us. So we'll like to talk to you afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah. Reach out to me. David has my information. Feel free to do that.
Thank you very much, Neetha. And Azim, thank you again for your incredible story and sharing that with us here today. I want everybody in the audience to give a nice virtual round of applause to Azim. And I do also want to share with you a very small token of our appreciation that we will be sending you in the mail. This is a candle with the Rotary logo on top. And the idea is, with any gift that we give out, that we're trying to affect lasting change in Chicago. And so all proceeds from these candles support an organization called Bright Endeavors. And their mission is to empower young moms by providing transitional jobs and professional skills training. So just like your organization, we're trying to find ways to help the community and support families and support kids, and then ultimately our communities. So thank you again, and you'll get one of these in the mail from us.
Thank you, Eric. I always light a candle, so that's going to be a perfect gift.
Excellent. Well, think of us when you do.
I will, for sure.
All right. Thank you very much, Azim. And you're always welcome to join us.
Thank you. I will take your leave now.
Very good. Sounds good. All right. Well, very good. That was very moving. I know we all just need to take a collective breath here. And it is time for us to move on to the introduction of our guests. And we have many here today. So as we go through our guests, I'd like you to just briefly introduce your name, what you do for a living, and if you are a Rotarian, tell us what Rotary Club you're from, and we'll try to get through all of our guests here today. So I'm going to just read through the list as it is in my participant window, and I'm going to start with Kevin Mcquillen. Kevin, could you please introduce yourself?
Thanks, Eric. I'm Kevin Mcquillen. I'm president of the Rotary Club of Naperville downtown. We're known as the 444 Club as to what time we start. I'm an attorney out in Naperville, and I've been getting more and more involved with Rotary as we go along. And things like we just got from Azim inspire me even more for the things we do as Rotarians. So thank you for allowing me to join.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Happy to see you again, and please do join us anytime you like.
Thank you.
I see a Bruno. Bruno, would you like to introduce yourself? You may be on mute, Bruno.
I'm here. I'm just trying to unmute myself.
Go for it. The floor is yours.
Yes, my name is Bruno Boucher. I'm a retiree. I used to have my company. I sold it, and now I'm going back to education. and to get a degree, probably in political science or religious study, one of the two. And this speech was very, very emotional, very inspirational, especially to the fact that right now in philosophy class, we're talking about ethic and morals, and forgiveness and the power of forgiveness, and I would say the vicious circle of anger and retribution. So that was a concrete example and a very inspirational one about the power of and the power of forgiveness. And even though it's hard, however hard the human endeavor could be or might be, the harder the human endeavor is, I've said, the better the reward. And to forgive someone for a benign act is somewhat easy. To forgive someone for a horrendous act is more difficult, and that would test our capability and our soul. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that this touched you in that way. Thank you for joining us today, Bruno.
Oh, you're welcome.
Danilo Tosic. Danilo, could you introduce yourself? Good to see you here again today, Danilo. You may be on mute, Danilo.
Yeah, do you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Danilo Tosic, and originally I'm from Serbia. I've been living in Chicago for the past 7 years. I own a transportation company, and I'm interested in becoming a member. Currently, I'm not a member of any Rotary Club. My first event was a couple of days ago when we were helping out homeless, when we were packing packages, and that's about it. It was interesting hearing the stories today.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining, Danilo. And again, thanks for your work over the weekend. It was really appreciated.
You're welcome anytime.
I see an Edward Francisco. Edward, could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So my company, I'm co-founder. I've got a business partner, but our company is a Conation community. So what we're doing is really just showing you how easy it is to make a meaningful and positive social impact, right in your backyard. So we're just matching people up with neighborhood, local nonprofits that are active in their community, and just, again, showing them how easy it is to, when you walk out your door, what's the nearest place that I can make a positive social impact for my community. So started that. I do like to say, hearing, just hearing the guest speaker was amazing for, just the, I think back in my life and going through, the hardships that I went through. And, I like to say, from the womb into doom, it was chaos. It was, living a life where you are in fear, whether it's abuse and these kind of destructive behaviors that it causes. So it is something where kids need hope. They need to know that there is someone that cares about them. And I think that's the most meaningful thing that you can give somebody, is just knowing that someone cares. Because, back in my life, I spent time, being homeless, just trying to figure things out. And it took me to, a path in life that I wanted to be able to give back and give kids hope, whether it's technology, whether it's, just showing, again, and here in Chicago, I feel like with our school systems and what's happening here, it's not getting any better. So I feel like there is a huge opportunity to start changing some lives.
Absolutely, Edward. Well, thanks for what you do, and thanks for joining us here today. Hope to see you again in the future.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Excellent. Our next guest is Harish Ramchandani. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you so much, Eric. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Harish Ramchandani, a member of the Rotary Club of Life in Montego Bay, Jamaica. And I'm happy to be here. Marga invited me, and I'm so happy she did. To hear this story was very profound and very moving. And, we've been, brought up and told to forgive and to accept people as they are in the situations and circumstances they are in. But to hear it firsthand from someone who did such a selfless act to forgive on a scale of that magnitude, just just kind of brings it home. It's very powerful, and I'm really happy I came. And thank you so much for having me. Good to be here.
It's our pleasure, and you know that you're always welcome. Great to have you. Irv and Ruth, could you please introduce yourselves?
I'm still knitting.
Yes.
I'm going to send you some scarves.
You know,
Ed, it's getting cold now.
I know.
Ed and all the audience, I'm past District Governor of Kaplan from our Chicago District 6450. Azim's talk brought back some very strong emotional memories to me. When I was 12, a gangland boy of 13 with a group of other boys tried to kill me. I was stabbed with a knife, went through me at that time. I just understand this from another perspective. That boy, as I never saw him again. His name was Tony. I knew him. But I heard that later on he did kill somebody. And I don't know much about it. But anyhow, it just struck me as being the victim. It's very interesting, anyhow, to see it from Azim's perspective. I had no father, so I had no one ever bringing back that experience or the trauma from it. Anyhow, it's a good day.
Wow. Well, thank you, Irv. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that, and that's an incredible story as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It's always good to see you guys. Thanks for joining. Our next guest is Jim Fawcett. Jim, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, Eric. I'm a professor emeritus. I taught architecture at Georgia Tech, now retired, member of the Marietta Rotary Club, which is in the metropolitan Atlanta area. I've been a Rotarian for 50 years. This is probably one of the most moving experiences in my life personally. I wish that this program was recorded and we could share it with Rotary clubs around the world. Was it recorded?
Yeah, you'll be happy to know that we do record all of our meetings and we post them all on our website. So we would be happy to share this with you, and you can share it with as many people as you like.
That is terrific. One other comment is we as Rotarians, and of course, people worldwide, need to focus on our younger generation. I think that's one of our greatest challenges, and I wish Rotary could develop a program where we would mentor young people in our communities and place them in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim, and I completely agree with that. I think we have a lot of work to do there. Our next guest is Carlin Gale. Carlin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. I'm Carlin Gale, and I'm glad to have a chance to be with you again this week at the invitation of my dear friend Kay Fleischer. I'm a semi-retired corporate attorney. I live in northern New Jersey. I work in New York City. And the program today was very touching and powerful. I come from a family, parents on down, very much involved in making an impact socially. I mean, it none of our professions, but it's something that has deepened my family's legacy. So this was very profound to hear. Thanks to Kay, I'm exploring Rotary clubs in the northern New Jersey and New York area to find one comparable to yours or as close to comparable as possible. But yeah, I want to thank Kay. As I said, Kay and I met over 20 years ago going to Bosnia on election observation missions. So it's a pleasure to have a chance to join you all in your meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlin. And again, with the magic of Zoom, feel free to join us as frequently as you like.
Thank you.
Sure. Our next guest is Mark Nabong. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Eric. This is actually my first time attending an event here. I'm not a member. I saw an ad go through. I can't remember which social media account or email or whatever came through about Mr. Khamisa, and I thought this was really fascinating to log into. And I got to say, I don't know. It was amazing. I don't know how I'm going to get back to work after this. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to drink a whole pot of coffee and eat a pint of ice cream just to recover. But I'm a recovering attorney. I work in renewable energy development now. I used to work at Tesla and the Natural Resources Defense Council, NRDC, and now I just sit in the same 20 by 20 foot room with my wife and 2 kids, which is on the north side of Chicago. So thank you for having me. This was wonderful.
Well, it's fantastic to have you, Mark. We always love to have guests. As you can see, we have a lot of guests from around the world. So do feel free to join us anytime you see an interesting speaker on the program, which hopefully is every week. We do meet every week, and we try to have fantastic speakers. So I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. And if you have any questions about Rotary, do feel free to reach out via the way you registered, and we can certainly connect and chat more.
Morning, I may take you up on that, and I talk a lot, so I apologize if you have to label me as spam.
That's totally fine. Very good. Let's see. We have who am I missing here? We have Philippe. Philippe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Before I say something about myself, I would like to thank Rotary Club for bringing Azim today with us to share such a strong story. And definitely, I learned a lot from his incredible story. It was moving. I came in United States as an international student 7 years ago. Got my bachelor degree in business administration. Currently, I'm running a few different businesses in Mexico, Serbia, and Chicago area and Florida area. I'm very happy to be together with you guys, and hopefully we can help communities together. And I'm definitely able to help together with you and do everything for our community.
Well, thank you very much. And again, thanks for coming on Saturday to support us. It meant a lot. And I'm really thrilled to see you and Danilo here today.
Thank you so much.
Sure. I see Mahfouzer Rahman. Welcome back, Mahfouzer. Please introduce yourself to the group. You may be on mute.
Okay. Thank you, Eric, and thank you so much, everybody. I am Mahfouzer Rahman, and I am a member of Rotary Club of Dhaka Premier in Bangladesh. And I'm very glad to be here today and to listen the inspirational story of forgiveness and from Mr. Azim Khamisa, and we learned how powerful forgiveness could be and what is the impact of forgiveness in society. So thank you so much to be here today. Thank you, Eric.
Well, thank you. Thanks for joining. Good to see you. You're certainly welcome anytime. Have I missed any guests today? Okay, very good. Well, let's move on with the program. Laura, if you're on as membership chair, I'd like you to just quickly update our members on our new member promotion and member drive and how we're working that moving forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. Good to see everybody this afternoon, especially so many new faces. It's always a pleasure. So many of you know we've been having a membership drive during the pandemic, and it's been going really well. We've gotten some great new members, and they've really shown us how they are excellent Rotarians. And so we want to continue that trend. And what we're going to do is continue on the drive, but we are going to limit it because the drive was that people would not have to pay dues. New members weren't going to have to pay dues until the board started meeting or until the meeting started happening in person. We've now decided to cap that at 3 months. So any new members will have their initial application fee waived. So that's the waiver of the $350 fee. And they'll have free membership for the first 3 months. Now, our members who have joined in the last 9 months or so, sorry, I've got a whiny dog next to me. You will be asked to start paying dues in December. Anybody, though, who joined in the last couple of months, you'll be given your first 3 months free dues as well. So feel free to email the office or email me if you have any questions about memberships and the membership drive, but please spread the word. Remember, our meetings are open, and please invite your guests.
And guests can be humans or dogs, although we don't really have a dog membership promotion yet, but maybe that's something we can address at the next board meeting. Thank you very much, Laura. Thanks for the update. So you may have heard us talk a little bit. I was thanking Philippe and Danilo for turning out on Saturday. And I want to talk about our volunteer event, the first 5 Rotary Club homeless outreach that we did. So first of all, I just want to say we did it. I've been talking about this now for quite a few months. We packed 2,000 really high quality hygiene kits, that's Salvation Army's words, not mine, and distributed them. Most of them, there's a few that we still need to distribute, but we'll get back to that in a moment. And we distributed them to the homeless at Salvation Army shelters. We gave them to a safe haven for them to pass out over the months ahead. And still others in our crew took some to pass out to the homeless in their neighborhoods. So I want to thank the volunteers that turned out for the series of events that we had leading up to the completion of this project. And those include Nick Del Carlo, my wife Pilbin, Natalie Loma, Marilyn Lopez, Nita Nagabadi, Shay Ogundeji, Lisa Russ, Marshall Schmidt, Mark Smith, John Wilhelm, Alita Williams. Alita provided the meals as well, and she also procured the hand sanitizer. And she was at every event to prep for this too. So big round of applause to her for that. And many other friends of Rotary that showed up. I already talked about Philippe and Danilo, for example. We had Rotaractors. We had Yvonne Jones from the Jesse White Foundation and many other friends that I don't have time, unfortunately, to announce all their names here. So I'm really, really proud of what we accomplished. I want to thank everybody for really implementing what my vision was for this project all along. And what that and what was the vision? Well, the vision is that, first of all, we led the project. Rotary Club of Chicago led the project. We built the project up from the ground up, as opposed to just tagging along with another group, which is fine too. But I think it was important that we grew the project. But we didn't reinvent the wheel. We worked with other organizations. We built a coalition. We found out what was needed. And with that coalition, we also developed relationships and partnerships that I think will last a long time. And with these partnerships, I think there's continued opportunities for future collaboration and really focusing on that lasting change. And I think in particular in the area of education, which I know is a goal of our community service committee, because a lot of these organizations we work with do have educational components for the homeless. And I think those are places we could slot in quite well because we have so much expertise within our club. However, most of those things are shut down during COVID, but we'll revisit that next year, hopefully. We also created numerous opportunities for hands-on service through this endeavor. We ended up with 5 different occasions, which brought out dozens of members and friends, as I mentioned. We got contributions from other organizations, including the base kit, which came from LDS Charities, the hand sanitizer from Koval Distillery, the masks from the Taipei Economic and Cultural Organization in Chicago, plus a $500 contribution from them as well. Our club put in $5,000 for this project, which in my opinion went a really long way. So I hope this serves as a model for other service projects that we can implement. And the project, in some sense, is still ongoing. There's one little piece left. A few folks took some bags home so they could drop them off with homeless encampments in their neighborhood. So we might see still a few more photos of them dropping them off. And also, we're going to need somebody in the next week or so to give me a hand running some of the boxes from Salvation Army over to the night ministry. So if anybody wants to reach out to me and has a car and some time to spare during the day, please let me know.
Eric,
there's also, oh yes.
This is Marshall. Can I just add one point?
Please do.
As I think everyone knows, this was a collaboration of the first 5 Rotary clubs. And what we set out to do was to make this project the first of many in this area. And so we're really looking for what is the next big idea when it comes to homelessness in Chicago. And we'd like to craft an even bigger project with the other first 5 clubs to carry on this theme. So if anyone has any ideas about ways we can serve the homeless community in Chicago, please, contact Eric or me. Sorry, Eric, for the interruption.
Oh, no, that's quite all right, Marshall. And Marshall has been instrumental in organizing this collaboration and working to get this project off the ground. So thank you for that, Marshall. There is another volunteer opportunity that we have every week, and that's the Meals for Seniors that Alita leads at Maple Point Apartments in the Gold Coast. So do sign up for that on our website or reach out to Alita directly. That's every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Margo, we're running a little bit short on time. Do you wish to say 15 seconds worth on the annual campaign?
Yes, if you haven't made it to your mailbox, please go, because you will find a letter from the Rotary One Foundation inviting you to be a part of our effort in reaching our goal of, you see the amount we want to send, we want to raise. People, this is really important. It is what allows us to do our projects. And as you know, we're having more and more projects every day, and we need your support. And I know we're going to get it. So thank you in advance. You can donate online. And if you have any questions, please reach out to the office or to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marga. Other great things coming up. Rotary means business. Get a little bit more out of your Rotary membership and some professional networking. That's this Thursday, November 19th from 6 to 7:30, and that's beyond just our club. So you have an opportunity to interact with many different Rotarians within the district and beyond. Other organizations that we partner with, again, speaking of meeting your personal and professional goals, Rotary International has a relationship with Toastmasters International. So I just want to remind folks about that. There was some information in your gyrator about that. So you can certainly feel free to find the link there and figure out ways to work with Toastmasters. We actually got a personal invitation from one particular chapter of Toastmasters in Lincoln Park, and they have invited us to their virtual meeting on November 19th at 6:30 p.m. Again, that information is in our newsletter and is just another way to get some value out of your Rotary membership. As always, we have our committee meetings. You can sign up for those online at our website on the calendar. They are open to everybody for our PR and Marketing Committee, Community Service Committee, International Service Committee, and then our board meeting as well. Unfortunately, with the increase in COVID rates and some of the lockdowns that are now coming back onto the scene, we are suspending the Friday roundtable at the Union League Club of Chicago. I know that a lot of people look forward to that kind of in-person fellowship. So you're certainly more than welcome to reach out to other Rotarians individually insofar as you want to meet for lunch. But the Rotary-sponsored roundtable will be suspended until this all settles down. We have great meetings coming up. For those of you who are guests here today, make note that next Tuesday we have the former director of the CIA, General David Petraeus. That should be a great event. We should have quite a few guests and members on there. That is not to be missed. On December 1st, we have our evening Rotary meeting. And that will be a joint meeting between Rotary One and Rotaract. So you should have something great in store. Should be interesting. We're going to let them run the meeting, so we will see how fun a Rotary meeting can actually be when there's not stodgy people like me leading them. So it should be a ton of fun. Please do come out, and also make sure that you're supporting our Rotaractors by being out for that meeting. And so with that, we're a few minutes late here, but it is time to move on to the four-way test, as we always do, to wrap up our meeting. And not to catch her off guard here, but since she is one of our newest members now, Beth Rotman, would you be available to perhaps read the four-way test for us here? It is on the screen in front of us. If you are on and you're not on mute, could you recite the four-way test for us? Are you there, Beth? Well, I think Beth may be on mute. Mafuzer, how would you like to recite the four-way test for us then? If you're still on. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay. I'm reciting the four-way test. The four-way test of the things that we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair or to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And fourth is, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you very much. What a great meeting today. Thank you all for joining. Meeting adjourned.